Hey, look at this. I could hold this or I could put it on Jay's camera. Hello there, Instagram followers.
Are you on?
There's Ashley. Yes, we're on.
Hello. Whoa.
We're also live on the Facebook right now through Jay's camera right there.
Call it the Facebook.
And then we could, I guess I could hold this. This usually goes on Jay's camera. There's no way I can do the next 25 minutes holding this like this, right? Jay, what do you think? Can you slap that on your camera in some way, shape, or form?
Where does it clip?
Whoa.
Hold on a second, I'll switch it.
Oh.
Hello there. People on Facebook have no appreciation for what we're doing right now. We're trying to adjust our Instagram exclusive camera. That's good for now. That is, if we stay close together and walk with Jay, we'll be fine.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunrise Extra. This is the show after the show, only seen on our .com platform and our social media channels like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, of course. Lots to cover in our Sunrise Extra program. Let me give a soft story out there for starters, an entertainment story to get the ball rolling, because I want to hear some feedback from people. Really, one of the most talked about events over the weekend was the Avengers movie.
Everybody's talking about
Avengers Endgame. Well, a lot of people went to see it.
Yeah.
It broke box office records. So for those of you who did see it, I did not. Ashley did not. My goodness, that camera shot is so terrible on Instagram.
It's
if
always
I go
way
here,
over.
you got nobody.
There we go. More Jay. More this way.
I'll help you out. Like that.
Not. Yeah.
And then maybe it'll flip back in when we. But look at this now. It's just hard to be on both platforms apparently at the same time. Right here. If Jay never moves,
just stay there, Jay.
Is he supposed to stand still for the next 20 minutes?
Oh my God, this is a failure.
My goodness.
Okay. Avengers
it can't be fixed.
Endgame.
Avengers Endgame. My question is this: if you saw it, did you like it? I'm assuming if you went, it's because you wanted to. So the bottom line is, did everyone love it, or were there some out there who were disappointed by one of the most anticipated movies of the last several years? So you can weigh in on that through Facebook, through Instagram. Chime in. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to share your comments. Did you love Avengers Endgame if you saw it, or were you at all disappointed by this 3-hour movie? Well, people chime in on that, unless you want to talk about Avengers.
I was just going to say my favorite story on that, real quick, was the NFL player who tweeted the spoiler.
Right. This came out, I heard about this on Friday. LaShawn McCoy. I only know his name well because he's a former Philadelphia Eagle, but he plays for the Buffalo Bills now, and he's a real, let's say he's an instigator of sorts. He likes to stir the pot.
Yeah.
He's been in some trouble before with both the teams he's played on, and trouble with the law for certain things in the past. He basically Thursday night went out and saw the movie, and then got on his Twitter account and let people know about very specific and important plot lines, like people who died in the film. He
just put it out there. But the best part of it were the responses to his tweet, which were so angry.
Yes.
Somebody even said, "I hope you blow your ACL."
Yeah, I didn't see death threats in his Twitter feed, but there was someone who expressed an interest in seeing his knee blow out in his next NFL game.
Yeah. So, hey, good morning, Pamela and Christine. Hello, Cindy and Joni. Okay, Christine also says no Game of Thrones spoilers either, because that also, was that last night? I think, yeah. Anyways, the two big things over the weekend. Christine says she has not seen a bad review. Nancy loved the movie Endgame. So, okay.
That's just, I was going to say, I hadn't read or heard any bad reviews about the movie either. Usually by this time you had heard something negative.
I heard it was too long.
I heard that before the movie came out, like, oh, be prepared. In fact, there was a story we ran on Friday about, here's what you should do, or here are the points in the movie where if you need to take a bathroom break,
I did see that, yeah.
Really? Aren't you committed to the movie at that point? Can I hit something real quick here, Jay? On the phone just to get the Instagram followers. There we go. I thought that was silly. You know what you're getting into. You're getting into a 3-hour movie that apparently you want to see real badly. You can't hold your bladder for those 3 hours, for goodness sakes.
But it was funny, though, the article. Times to go to the bathroom. Okay, we'll just keep letting people weigh in on here, so leave your comments.
Okay, so the reason we want to bring Ashley into the mix, look at that. You're still off to the side here in Instagram.
I know.
Thank you. The reason we want to bring Ashley into the mix is because you did a positive parenting segment today on the Sunrise Show that got us talking a little bit. Maybe you can set it up with, again, what was the question at hand here?
Okay, so we're talking about kids and personal space, and whether you tell your children at like a family get-together, hey, go hug your Aunt so-and-so or your Uncle Tom or Joe or whatever, making kids as like a goodbye gesture or hello, go give them a hug, which to me, I'm like, why is that wrong? I grew up being told that all the time. Hey, go give them a hug, say goodbye, we're leaving. And so I came across this article just after Easter, and I'm like, wait, this is apparently a really controversial parenting move.
Right. And it was very specific. It wasn't just, hey, or should you force your kids to say goodbye to the relatives? It was, should you force them to give hugs and kisses?
Yeah, yes. And not goodbye, but yes, saying go give them a hug or go give them a kiss. And I honestly was a little blown away that this was such a debate. So I Googled it and I found all these articles about why you shouldn't do it and why psychologists are weighing in saying not to do it. And bottom line is they say that it's violates their comfort zone and their personal space, and that it teaches them that they don't have control over their own body, or I guess they're not in charge of consent. They're not learning the proper lessons about consent, and that no kid should be forced to do that. And I'm like, okay, I get that. Well, first of all, if the kid's like creeped out by a family member, I think there are bigger issues at hand, but I get that. Like if your kid's really uncomfortable with it, but I guess I never would give it a second thought of just the kids who just don't want to do it. Like I'd be like, go say goodbye.
It didn't seem like much of a topic to me either, only because the first people that came to my mind were my mom and my mother-in-law, because they're the relatives that we see most often, and we definitely tell our boys, go give mom a kiss, or go give Oma a kiss, or go give her a hug, and don't think twice about it. And sometimes they may be like, but they don't really resist.
Right.
But I can see as you go further down the line of your family tree, hey, there's the aunt we only see once a year. Go give her a hug. And the boy's like, I don't really even know her. And then I would never force my kids to do that beyond, I think, my mom and my mother-in-law. Every other relative is just like, make sure you say goodbye to your aunt, make sure you say goodbye to your uncle, something like that.
And yes, and I guess the word forced, yes, no one should ever be forced to do anything, especially when it comes to their body or their personal space. But I think some psychologists even take it a step further than forced, and they say you shouldn't even tell them to give somebody a hug, which I'm like, I don't know. I'm curious of your guys' thoughts. My babies are obviously way too young. We're not at that phase yet, so I mean, Christine says a suggestion is okay, like, hey, maybe, go give them a hug, but being forced is bad. Jenny says, I made them say goodbye and talked about how a hug was their choice. My daughter was fine. My son is on the spectrum, she says, and he would give a high five, which that was actually, Jenny, one of the suggestions from psychologists. They said, hey, just tell them, suggest rather a handshake or a high five if they're uncomfortable with hugging. Right. So, and Christine says, yeah, saying goodbye is okay. The forced physical stuff is, not good.
I'll tell you what, I'm not comfortable doing. I'm not comfortable telling people that they should make their kids give anyone a hug. You know what I mean? Like I can't speak for your family, your children, any situation. All I can think about is in my own situation, my mom would be emotionally hurt, and she would have emotional problems if she came into the house and the boys gave her a high five instead of a hug. But again, that's just one situation. My mom and my two kids. Beyond my mom, it's different. And like you said, other kids are going to be in different situations. This woman mentioned her son being on the spectrum. And certainly if that makes him at all uncomfortable, why would you force him to do it then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bottom line, just don't force him, I guess. And that's, but you know what, it's these types of things that kind of open my eyes to topics I never would have thought about, I guess. So it's good to be mindful. Whatever you decide for your family is, your decision, and that works for you. But it's good to just at least talk about these things.
More bothersome is when my kids have friends over, and then the friends have to leave. Like maybe the mom or dad comes by to pick them up, and like, hey, I'm just gonna make up a name. Joshua, your mom's here. So Joshua comes downstairs, and maybe they're upstairs playing video games, and my sons don't come downstairs with them. That bothers me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, Joshua's leaving. Come down here and say goodbye. I'm not saying you have to give Joshua's mom a hug or a kiss. Yes, finish the play date.
That's a respect thing, though.
Right.
So I do think that's important to teach. Rod, do you want to weigh in on this, or you want to move to another topic?
No, the hugging and kissing thing. I mean, I don't think. I think it's.
We've exhausted the topic pretty well. If you don't want to talk about it,
let's move on. I think you have to show respect, right? That's the big thing. You have to respect them. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other topics we're talking about today, we're going to bring Kyle Iboshi back in because Kyle had the big feature today on the Sunrise Show about robocalls and how it's really become an epidemic. And I want to say hundreds of billions of robocalls each day.
Billions.
That's probably true. Yeah.
I believe that.
It's true when you saw that little piece of video Kyle showed in his piece where with the push of one button, the gentleman that came into our newsroom, the expert in this field, was able to call all those phones that were laid out on the table. All those phones started ringing at one time.
Nuts.
So I don't know if this is a problem that you face with your phone, because personally I don't.
Oh, no, I've gotten used to it. But do I have at least, I'm going to say I have no fewer than 3 robocalls on average every single day.
Every day?
Some day it may be 1 or 2. It's always at least 1 or 2. Some days it's probably more.
Chris McGinnis, do you have a problem with robocalls on your own personal phone?
Do I have a problem with it?
Or do you
No,
want
no,
them
so
all
you
phone
get-
calls?
No, I'm
sir?
saying you get a lot.
Yes, I have a problem with them, and yes, I get a few. And what's interesting is that I have the same number that I got when I first got my cell phone back in 2001. So I'm like one of those people that I went
Kept it.
cell phone, kept it, and so the vast majority of my robocalls or numbers that I don't understand are actually from that area code.
Right.
So I don't get like
it
New
Philadelphia or
York
somewhere else?
Philadelphia. It's somewhere.
Yeah,
Midwest,
mine are
Midwest,
local
yeah.
too.
West, okay.
So
What's your
I just
number, Chris?
Found that.
Just kidding.
Well, then I'm going to have to change my number because, yeah, so I hate it.
Well, Kyle's coming in right now to give us the real takeaway from the story is what can you do to combat this issue of robocalls? So I want to hear from our viewers.
Yeah.
The best
watching?
way to participate in the Sunrise Extra show. No, Kyle's here. Our director, Brian Matthews, is
he's
in our
here.
ear. So
Yeah,
we will
come on
move this
in.
over to
Yeah.
the jumbo set.
Hey, Drew.
Because- yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to know if Kyle knows. I'm not sure if he does or not.
Hey,
But,
why don't you come over and ask him?
well, I wanted to
Step
ask
in.
Kyle, is this a similar
on.
problem in
You should
pretty
wear a
much
mic, yes.
He doesn't have a mic.
all large developed countries? I'm
Ky-
curious to see if other countries have been able to
Directors,
kind of
we need
stomp
to-
this
we need to
out
put
where the
Kyle on
United
mic.
States
What
we
mic
have
do we
not.
put him on?
Kyle is asking if he
put
should
that
wear a
mic on.
microphone for this segment. It's highly encouraged. And Ashley, are you going to step out?
Or a
Because you know
six.
your phone was providing me the comments from people on Facebook. I probably can't borrow your phone.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'll come over. Well, I'll give you my phone.
If you give me your phone, you can take a step out because I know you have to work on another assignment for later this week.
I do.
We always ask our viewers to participate in these Sunrise Extra Talks. So if you have a way to combat the robocall problem, maybe you've had this problem yourself, maybe you've done something, a trick you can pass along to other viewers. What have you done in your own life to combat the robocall problem?
I like the Seinfeld episode. Remember, Jerry goes, you know what, I'm kind of busy right now, but if you give me your home number, I'll call you later tonight. Remember, it was
Yes.
something like that, Seinfeld's answer to it?
Can I just tell one quick story?
Yes.
One of my friends was getting so many phone calls from robocallers that she started answering her phone with like, hi, this is like Bill with the so-and-so police department. Like she'd answer her phone being
Right.
like, Detective so-and-so, and then instantly they would
and hang up.
turn off. I don't know if that will help, but that
Kyle
was funny.
mic'd up, here he comes.
I like
I'm
this
in.
one from
Hopefully you can hear. Can they hear me okay?
The
They can
great
hear you. I
Kyle
can hear you
Iboshi,
loud and
ladies
clear.
and gentlemen.
Okay.
I can't speak for everyone in the audience right now, Kyle, but I do have a comment here from
Yes.
Jonna Horn on our
Okay.
Facebook page. Jonna says, I get 3 to 4 calls every day saying I want a night to the Marriott Hotel. She says she blocks each number every time one comes in, but it doesn't stop. Please make it stop. So the takeaways today, Kyle, from your robocall story, what are the things people can do to stop this
Well,
problem?
these scammers use tricks, right? And so, for that example, they change their numbers all the time because they know that there are call blocking services that recognize 503 whatever. That's a bad number, so we're going to block it. So then they just go and change it, and they literally change it by the second, and it allows them to get around some of these call blocking services. If you try and block them, it gets around that, and it's just one of the tricks they use. So we tried to kind of expose the tricks they use because I get these calls all the time from people who are frustrated or emails saying, "Well, how are they doing this?" Or like they claim they're from the IRS, and it says right here the IRS. So we wanted to show people how they're pulling this off, so that you can better understand and the frustration and also the challenges in trying to combat these things because it's tricky.
You showed it by bringing in that gentleman, and
Right.
remind me again who this expert was, what field he was from.
Yeah, Ken Weston. So we use him fairly regularly as a tech security analyst, and this is what he does for a living. Is he helps tech companies, and so in this case, he did 2 things. One, he showed us how they make millions of calls. Press of a button. And in this case, we collected coworkers' phones, we laid them out. He had a program, pressed a button, and next thing you know, they're all starting to light
So
up.
that program is, I'm understanding this, that program at that point is almost using GPS to ring whatever phone is in proximity to
No,
it?
in this
What was-
case, we put the numbers in, so we knew which phones we're trying to reach.
Okay.
What they're doing is oftentimes they're just random selecting what phone numbers to call. I mean, they're calling a bazillion phone numbers hoping they get somebody to bite.
Right.
But the scary thing is, I assume they're getting enough people to bite and be scammed, or they would stop doing
Oh,
this,
sure.
right?
Billions. People are losing millions and millions of dollars, and they're making billions of calls. I mean, you get them, right?
Yeah, 2,
more than
3
one.
a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like fishing. You know, they're just casting, hoping that somebody bites, and unfortunately, people do. And what's really sad is oftentimes it's vulnerable seniors. It's our parents. It's our grandparents. It's those folks who are getting taken by this. You and I maybe not so much, but people get taken. I mean, they're pretty good.
If you don't answer the calls, if you only answer
Right.
calls from numbers you recognize,
Right.
is that the only way you can really combat this? Do you fall off lists by not answering those calls? As they
Yeah,
come in?
right. I mean, that's my strategy. I don't answer. Unless I know it's Drew Carney calling, and then I'll answer. I mean, if it's a questionable
hour.
I'm the same.
Well,
by
even
the way.
that, yeah.
Only Drew.
No, but if it's a questionable number, I don't answer. I let it go to voicemail. And odds are it's probably a scam number. And you're right, though, you will come off that list because what they're looking for are live numbers. So that's oftentimes when they're like, press 1. Don't press 1 because they're trying to find out whether this is a working number or not. And then you end up on some other list, and we call it the sucker list. But there is a legitimate sucker list of people who are vulnerable or susceptible to fraud.
So you mentioned in your story that there's maybe some hope on the horizon in our country of figuring out a way to handle this better. Did you have a chance to look to see if other China, England, if other countries are handling this better than what we've managed
It's
to?
an international problem.
It is.
What's interesting, and to that point, a lot of these scam calls are originating overseas, right? So they're not coming from the U.S., and so as a result, it's difficult for law enforcement to go after these people and track them down. And you know, it's like anything in today's technology. It's just connecting the dots, and the dots are all over the world.
This may be a separate question, but how is that happening from overseas and it's showing up as like a 503 number? Is it like they're doing some kind of spoofing or something like that, where they're literally
exactly it.
masking their number?
Yeah.
And that's just easy to do. There's just software out there where they can hit a button, changes the number, hit a button, changes the number, hit a button, changes their number, the origination number.
Yeah. In fact, this new trend is called neighbor spoofing. And so basically it's the 503 and then the first 3 digits of maybe your number. You've probably gotten those, right? Mm-hmm. And that you're like, oh, this looks pretty familiar, so you're more likely to answer.
Yeah.
And that's just another take on it. But yeah, it's computer generated. It's the click of a button. In our story, we had him dial what looked like KGW. I mean, it came in, it recognized on my phone, gave me the logo of KGW, which I have in my contacts, as KGW. And he's like,
Had that extension.
yeah, and it's him.
Wow.
It's the phone version of those emails you get, those spam emails that come across as like a friend's name.
Right.
And then, but you look at, if you actually look at the email address, it's not
Right.
your friend's email address. It's some kind of ridiculous, goofy one. Can I just share some of the feedback from our viewers?
Yeah,
Because that's the great part of Sunrise Extra is that you guys get to weigh in and we can share some of your thoughts. So we have a viewer named D. Marcella or D. Marcella, depending on how she pronounces it. She says they, talking about the scammers, get through the freebie phones like crazy. Some of those, you know, you get those temporary phones that you can get sometimes if you're going on vacation. She says the old folks also often have these freebie phones, and scammers really abuse those. One more, I saw a good one from, she says, Sonia. Viewer Sonia says, I also have a cell number that isn't local, so robocalls are a little more obvious if they don't leave a message. I immediately block the number. The robocalls, though, to the home and the business phone, how do I combat those?
Right.
I think we've kind of addressed that already. There is no real solution or no rock solid one, but there's a couple of things you can do, namely stop answering. Lee Martin says, I've been getting calls from Google, or someone suggesting they are Google, for over 5 years now.
Right.
I mean, not just a problem that happens every day to billions, but something that can happen to the same person over and over again for a long period of time. That story obviously aired on the Sunrise Show today, Kyle. Will we see it again on TV through our news shows today or only online?
We'll have it on 6 o'clock tonight. We'll have the story again if you didn't get a chance to see. We've also posted it online on kgw.com, along with kind of a write-through of just basic questions that people have that they often ask me. And so we tried to explain them in basically a sentence or two, so it's a pretty easy read. But check it out. I mean,
Well, companies like AT&T, for example, or Verizon, have they been contacted by our government to see is there anything you guys can do to help?
And in our story, we talked to Consumer Reports that acknowledge telecoms have been slow to respond to this. They are making strides, and there's some new technology rolling out by hopefully the end of this year, which will help identify fraudulent calls. The challenge is it's not foolproof. I mean, there's no, because there are legitimate needs for robocalls. So when we have storms in Oregon and your school district calls and says there's a 2-hour delay, right? That's a robocall. But for many people, that's a good robocall. You want to get that, right? When your dentist calls you and says, hey, Rod, reminder, tomorrow morning you have an appointment at 7 a.m.
That's a good robocall.
Right? That's a good robocall. So there's a legitimate purpose for robocall. Or even 911 when there's an emergency in your neighborhood, they're able to call. So there's legitimate purposes. And that's a problem, is there's kind of this carve out in the law for legitimate, reasonable robocalls. And so you can't just say no robocalls at all, right? So that's really the challenge here.
Things in life, generally speaking, are usually not easy. This is another one.
Right.
Hey, we do have to go because we have to free up the man behind the camera for the Sunrise Extra program, Jay. So we're going to handle one more question, if you don't mind, Kyle, because I know this is a question you already answered.
Yeah.
But you never know when people are tuning in.
Sure.
Obviously, Jonna Horn did not see this. She says, or pardon me, Sharon Hamilton, does it help to be on the Do Not Call registry? Sharon Hamilton asking, does it help to be on the Do Not Call registry? Tell her why it doesn't help.
Well, it doesn't hurt. But a lot of people say, I signed up, I shouldn't be getting these calls at all, right? So here's the deal. The National Do Not Call list is to address legitimate businesses to stop them from making sales calls, right? The problem is we're dealing with scammers and crooks here.
Right.
They don't care about the law. They don't care about the rules. So they're going to keep calling, and that's the problem.
So the technology doesn't block them what they're doing at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like even a legitimate business can just say, I know you're on the list, but I don't care.
Well, they could be fined, and they
Got
can.
it.
I mean, and they have a reputation and a license. So they're playing by. Hopefully, they're playing by the rules, and I think a lot of them do.
Right.
It's these folks that aren't playing by the rules that causes the headache with the ring.
And even if you do this thing like call block, right? Because like my iPhone allows, like you get a number and you
Sure.
can block it.
Sure.
You can block it, but it really doesn't matter because there's just
There are some. I mean, there are apps that basically do that, right? And the Federal Trade Commission publishes a list every day of questionable numbers, and they update the apps, and they block those as much as they can. But the problem is the scammers move so quickly. You know, it's like whack-a-mole. You know, you're never going to catch them all. You're just trying to knock them down.
I'm going to use producer Jessica here. She said, didn't you hear me, Drew? I said we have to go early. We have to free up Jay. Yes, we
Sorry.
did. We're going to get out of here, Jessica. We're going to go. Kyle, thank you for sharing all that information.
Thank
Again,
you.
if you want to see Kyle's story online, you can find it at kgw.com. Robocallers, how do we stop them? How can you defend yourself?
It seems odd to say call Kyle, but we always say that. Call Kyle.